Hi, this is Lexis Bill, and it's a pleasure to come on your screen and, of course, on your radio with another edition of Personality Profile. You know, when I take my seat like this, it means I have an amazing guest to tell you about what they do, their life story, and of course, we're going to pick lessons from that. Today, actually, I have a very, very special guest, one that you'd totally love to listen to. Let me ask you, what is it like dedicating your life to the development of Africa? Can you imagine what it is like to live every day wishing you can eradicate poverty from the continent? What is it like, actually, living a life knowing you want to empower young women and young people to help create jobs for young people and for the holistic advancement of the continent? I wish for a day where I can say this is my job. But until then, we learn from somebody who is living it, doing everything for the advancement of young people on the continent, creating policies and programs to help get us the Africa we want now. Yeah, I'll tell you about my guest. She's an amazing woman, I'll tell you. So, she's the first woman to lead the Africa Union's Development Agency New Partnership for Development, AUDA-NEPAD. She was unanimously endorsed as the Chief Executive Officer of AUDA-NEPAD by the African Union Heads of State and Government during the 35th Ordinary Session of the African Union Summit in February 2022. Guess what? She's mandated to, among other things, coordinate development programs across the continent, mobilize requisite resources, implement Vision 2063 and its priority programs, and provide knowledge-driven and evidence-based advisory services to member states. She brings nearly 40 years of experience in a visionary leadership style characterized by her robust commitment to advancing Africa's development agenda. Her tenure is notably focused on socio-economic transformation and the meticulous implementation of the 2063 agenda and its key initiatives. She has held several high-level positions within the United Nations. She served as UN Resident Coordinator in South Africa, head of the UN system in South Africa somewhere in 2019. She's got a vast experience providing advisory services and performing advocacy roles in several African countries. She served as the Senior Director of the UN's Office of the Secretary General, and she also served for over 4 years in Kenya as Country Director and Deputy Resident Representative of the UNDP. Yeah, I mean, it's a lot. I could go through it. She's a member of the group of African Eminent Women. She's a recipient of the prestigious 2015 AUDAF Award for Women of Excellence as well. That came along with the president of Liberia, former president of Malawi. She's the recipient of the Living Legend Achievers Award in 2007 as well, member of the New York Economics Club, and a member of the Allied Social Sciences Association. She has a very, very huge profile, but we get to hear her story herself and her work as well. Please help me welcome Her Excellency, Mrs. Nardos Bekele-Thomas. You're welcome, Your Excellency.
Thank you for having me.
I'm so happy to have you on my show today.
Oh, me too. I'm just really, really pleased to be here.
I mean, I was actually wondering who picked out the outfit for starters, because at 10, we almost went to 11, didn't we?
Thank you very much. Thanks so much. You know, we have to keep up, right?
Well, you're doing a good job at it.
Right.
I see
exactly.
that.
Yeah.
But you're in Ghana for the AU meeting. This week.
Yes.
This is some sort of work for you, right?
Yeah.
And
right.
this is one of those media review meetings. Is that what it is?
Yes.
Tell us about it.
Well, you know, every year there are two, literally a summit and a semi-summit. You know,
And the semi-summit, okay.
which we call coordination meeting. One takes place mid-year to just look at, you know, coordination among the AU entities, but coordination also with the development plans of countries, with the regional plans of countries, and aligning, you know, our continental plans with that of the regional and national plans. And it's a time to exchange information, showcase best practices, and and address and tweak our plan for the rest of the year. So, this is a very important, actually, summit. It's more focused on development.
Okay.
So,
okay.
we are really at the center
Yeah.
of everything.
No, I need to
here,
commend
yeah.
you and your team at AUDA-NEPAD as well for all the things that you're doing. I've been following some of the projects that you're doing, and I need to say, look, kudos to you and the team. And it's all thanks to your wonderful leadership. I'm sure you feel proud every day when you see the projects that you're doing and the impact that you're making. Does it bring you joy?
Oh, certainly. I mean, all my life, I've been working as a development practitioner. And, for me, to see change is one of the most fulfilling thing, to see a human being, living better
Yeah.
than when I found that person is something that is very important. And I do it not only at work, but also in the family, with friends, and
Yeah.
everybody that I see and everybody that I get in touch with. So, that is a most important aspect of this whole thing. But, throughout my 40 years career, at the UN, and now the additional 2 years with this development agency, I think, it's a continuation of what I did before,
Okay.
but at a continental level. This African Union Development Agency came into existence just recently, in 2018, 2019 was COVID, so, the 2 years followed were really, a time that we should deduct from our ages.
Yeah.
And therefore, it really started being operational in 2021, 2022 when I joined.
Yeah.
And I should give actually acknowledgement to my predecessor, who carried the NEPAD up to where it is today. He did a marvelous job, and what I'm doing is building on that, and
Yeah.
also adding some more responsibilities, because the mandate of NEPAD is expanded to be a development agency,
Right.
and therefore it's much more than what it is.
Yeah.
So you earlier on mentioned what the development agency's mandate is.
Yes.
The first one is coordination. And since I took over this position, I took coordination very seriously for two reasons. One is because, I've been doing coordination when I was in the UN,
In the UN.
in many countries, Kenya, South Africa, and Benin. But also, I saw the merits of coordination. I saw how much Africa wastes and how much leakages there are in Africa. And we talk about mobilizing resources, but utilization of the available resources is so critical and very important. And I thought that coming to a continental body with a governing, we have got a governing body for AUDA, which is really very critical and very important, because we report to 33 heads of state, which we call the Heads of State and Government Orientation Committee. And therefore, I said, oh, here I am with a big muscle, the political muscle.
Yeah.
And then with that, we can make a change and really bring my experiences from the various countries I've worked.
Yeah.
I've worked in 12 countries. I've covered the whole of Africa when I was a private sector policy advisor and so on. So bring all that and really use this muscle to make a difference in
Yeah.
Africa, the way we do it and the way we utilize our resources efficiently, effectively, and that is coordination.
Yeah.
And the first thing we did is, you need to have products and tools to coordinate. You cannot just talk, right, about coordination. And therefore, the first thing we reflected is, listen, we are at the end of the first 10-year implementation plan of the Vision 2063. We have got a blueprint that is incredibly rich and, very, very relevant. Therefore, let's make it to be a live document and review what we have done during the last 10 decades, a decade,
Yeah.
10 years, and then design a program that would help coordinate all these development activities at national, regional level towards the same goal, same objective, and to achieve results for Africans. Implementation is the one that is lacking. we did a review of the 10-year implementation plan with the AUC, and what we did is, in the review, we made it to be so consultative. So we involved the ministries of plan, and we told them to have a consultative process within the countries and to come out with honest opinion, and also look at what worked, what didn't work, to learn from that in the design of the second 10-year implementation plan. And we did that, and it was very successful.
I see.
Yeah.
But
And
what were the barriers to implementation?
well, I'm coming to that.
Okay.
And the result of this whole evaluation and review, although not truly deeply scientific, I should admit that, and we don't need that science anyway, it's been very poor. We did only 38% of what we intended to do, okay? And the barriers to this one is, first of all, the tool itself, the plan that we put in place was not really well prepared. It didn't have a costing. There was no budget for it. The monitoring and evaluation plans were not really as they should be. So there were some issues relative to the planning process.
Okay.
And it wasn't consultative enough for people to really embrace it, for ministries of plan to say, okay, this is our, plan, and we have to align our indicators to the development plan. They didn't do that. So there was no alignment, right? Like the SDGs are. So, what we did is we said, okay, fine, these are, actually identifying your problems is already solving your problem, right? So we identify the problem, and we use that to inform the development of the 10-year plan.
Okay.
In the development of the 10-year plan, therefore, we did costing. We had foresight planning, which wasn't the case before.
Okay.
Because, in any case, you cannot just sit and plan for yesterday's problem and today's problem, okay? When you are planning for the future, right?
Right.
You have to anticipate, the shocks. You have to anticipate the risks and plan for them to be able to attend that. So we had foresight planning. And as we speak, our experts are going to, from country to country, training planners and statisticians in terms of foresight planning, scenario building, because that is very critical, and that was something that was lacking in most countries, right? So we did that. We did costing, and also we put as many people to be participating in this whole plan, understanding the fact that this is a plan for everybody. So today, although not perfect, because there is nothing perfect, but we have got a good working document, an implementation plan for the coming 10 years. And this implementation plan could serve as the one plan. Actually, we have adopted the whole slogan of 2 agenda, 1 plan. The SDGs, Vision 2063, these are 2 agenda. One is global, the second one is continental, but we work through one implementation plan and coordinate our activities. And so this is the whole philosophy now that we are promoting, and we're pulling people, development actors, development partners, member states, private sector, civil society organizations, faith-based organizations, to all come and work within the framework of this plan. This is a big, I think, achievement. The second one is resource mobilization. And we said, listen, yes, resource utilization, like I said, is very important, but we need additional resources, because this plan itself, the costing of it is based on the national development plans and the budgets, the national budgets. And therefore, the whole plan would cost us $8.3 trillion. But the $5 trillion, you'll be surprised, comes from the budget. It's already there. So the money that we're looking for is $3 trillion. So if we take seriously our budgeting process as member states, if we use the resources properly, efficiently, effectively, we would have done most of the work. but still we need 3 trillion
to cover,
for the rest. So these 3 trillion resources, what we have done is, again, using the coordination method, we said we have got all these national development plans. First of all, they should be aligned. So the alignment has taken place in most cases. In 40 countries, we have aligned the national development plans to the implementation plan, indicators and everything, so that reporting would take place efficiently. Second is we have got the regional entities, the regional economic communities, and they have their own programs, they have got their projects, they have got activities going on. So what we said is that their programs should also be aligned to the continent framework, because they were part and parcel of the whole development process, the design process. So we mapped out all their programs, projects, together, we rationalized them, and then, we aligned them to the implementation plan, and we said, listen, we are going to mobilize resources because the continental framework is anchored on the regional economic communities programs, and they are anchored on the national plans. So we said, listen, let's just have one resource mobilization strategy. So we came out with this framework of Africa team, and delivering as one. Okay, so the regional economic communities, the AUDA-NEPAD, the AFCFTA, the CDC, we're all working together as Africa team, delivering results stipulated in the implementation plan, and we have one voice, and we deliver as one effectively, efficiently. That's the hope.
Wow.
Okay? So these are tools that would help us, whether I'm there, whether I'm not there, then these tools would help move things. So the Africa team now is working, and one of the side events at Badia, wants to really champion the Africa team and help also mobilize resources from the Arab funds for us. The European Union is very keen into that. We're refining the work, and we will launch it next February summit.
At the next summit?
At the next summit, So, these are things that we have been doing in terms of really bigger planning, whatever. And of course, within that, we have got all the bigger priority programs, like the infrastructure. Because without the infrastructure, you can talk about AFC, FTA day and night, but it will not materialize, Integrator programs are very key and important, and infrastructure is very important. Infrastructure, not only roads, transport and whatever, but also the water transport, we're looking at it, the energy we're looking at, digital, all this infrastructure that is fundamental, even including, agriculture, the irrigation infrastructure. We're looking at all these as a complex, holistic, infrastructure program, and we have costed them. The programs are there. We are mobilizing resources. By the way, PIDA PAP1, the first PIDA program, we had a review of 10-year PIDA, and it really showed that there was so much progress in the continent. And you can see it. Even come here, the roads and whatever in West Africa, but there are so many roads, interconnecting roads that have been built thanks to the PIDA and thanks to the champions of this infrastructure, because we have got 12 champions, presidential champions for different programs. And they've been moving. And our role has been emphasized, amplified, to make sure that we have the experts pool within AUDA-NEPAD. We have expanded that so that we have got pipeline programs, because you do the scoping, you do the pre-feasibility study, the feasibility study, and unless these studies are really well done, you cannot get, bankable projects, and you cannot get investors. So to captivate investors, we need to refine our work, and that's what we have been doing. And
you have chalked a lot of successes.
Exactly. Not to mention the agriculture sector, not to mention what we have done in the health sector with the harmonization of the regulatory framework. If we're going into pharmaceutical industries, you need harmonized regulatory bodies.
Yeah.
So, actually Ghana is number one.
Oh, is it?
Yeah, the Ghana Regulatory Authority is doing so wonderful.
When it comes to pharmaceuticals?
Yes,
Okay.
yeah. And we're using them, there are 54 of them, building, strengthening their capacities and harmonizing their policies, their rules, regulatory frameworks, so that, if and when, pharmaceutical industries open up, then, it will be easy to trade, right?
Yes.
So that is, one great achievement. Actually, it's been, one of those that we call, our success stories.
Wow. Wow.
Yeah,
That's
and now
impressive.
we're going, and we pushed for the creation of Africa Medicines Agency,
Okay.
about it, and it's now going to be operational
Yeah.
this year, actually, and therefore we will move in supporting that
Okay.
medicine agency.
We'll talk about the takeouts, especially from this coordination summit that is happening this week. Let's digress a little bit. Earlier when you mentioned, you actually dropped a nugget that I can resonate with, how you'd want to leave somebody better off even after meeting them. How you see Africa and you want it to be even better than you met it. How much of this is you personally? How much of this is a part of who you are?
That's a very hard question because, I am a very team player. It's just interesting, in my daily work, right? Whenever, I have something in my mind, I just call everybody. I like sharing ideas with people. And it's only through sharing that I can develop my thoughts, refine my thoughts, reflect more. So I like the energies of others, but I like positive energy, right?
Yeah.
So, and when, that collective energy, is synchronized and gets together,
Yeah.
then it makes such a transformational thing. So, I'm catalyst,
Yeah. Yeah.
and my style of bringing together people, then, brings that transformational change. So it's very difficult for me to say I did this, I did that, and and I don't think any one of us could do anything alone. That will be a success, right? So in everywhere I went, be it, like for example, I always cite the example of Uganda in the 1990s. I went there as a private sector policy advisor.
Okay.
In the 1990s, Uganda was just coming out after war, and President Museveni was, just came in, and that's a socialist country, trying to be liberalized. There is no private sector because all the Indians had left the country in 1972. So, it was really a very dire situation in Uganda. But together with, I tell you, an army of 2,000 people participating, from farmers to informal sector, traders, to women, household, wives, to women in trading, youth in, in schools and out of schools. We came out with national private sector strategy. And this national private sector strategy had 9 components. And, agriculture, tourism, MSMEs, informal sector, microfinance, financial sector, the normal financial sector, all what we think in industries, manufacturing and industries, mining. So each segment had its own constituency, and my role was to really go in there and be, what do you call it? Really,
be the catalyst?
The catalyst,
Yes,
absolutely. Come out with ideas. You can do it. And, we didn't have money because World Bank, and I talk about it, and USAID refused to give us the money because for them, it's a consultant, well-written document or whatever. That was very important. And I didn't believe in that. I wanted that movement of people coming and, carving their destinies themselves.
Yeah.
So, we did it. I tell you, by the time I left, in the remotest districts, okay, there were private sector promotion centers. Doesn't matter how they were, we don't have deluxe, things, but that fits the environment. That is a catalyst for transformation. We had village banks, 20 village banks in each district. And the parliamentarians were with us because it's really good for them, for politics. And it's such a wonderful transformational process of 4 years of my life. And I tell you, when I say 4 years of my life, it's a true story because I conceived my daughter and, I left to the States when I was almost 10 months. I arrived there 2 days later, I had my daughter.
Oh, wow.
And then a week later, I'm back to work.
Are you
So that
serious?
is the dedication
Yeah.
I had for that process.
Wow.
And I never forget that,
Wow.
And but it's now so humbling and so fulfilling after so many years. I left in 89. I went there last time to visit the country, to see these promotion centers in different forms, transformed to being big, to see the village banks being the SACCOs, the savings banks.
Yeah.
And in the north, these saving banks were competing with big banks like Standard Chartered that they had to close, the big banks had to close.
Wow.
And this is transformational.
So this passion for development work, is it born from your upbringing? When you were much younger, what career path did you want to chart?
Yeah. I think it just came with time. It just came with that. You're right, absolutely. I always tell my children, I wanted a life better than mine for them.
How
But
was yours?
Mine was difficult.
Really?
Yeah, it was a difficult childhood. I
You
mean, I
mean
come
your
from
early days in Ethiopia?
early days in Ethiopia. I was in, of course, the youth parties. EPRP.
Okay.
So I lost my two brothers. They were executed.
They were
I was
executed?
Yeah, I was in jail. At that age, I was in the movement. Then my parents needed money because from having everything you had nothing.
Yeah.
So I had to work. So I went, and started working.
What work were you doing at the time?
Yeah, first is microfilming with one of my professors at the university, a historian called Professor Hablo. So with him we did this microfilming. What we did was we go to churches because the whole idea was on how to safeguard the heritage, right? Because there was a lot of looting. There was, in revolution, what we do, even as children, what we do is destroy, right? So we were going books and whatever in microfilm. And actually this microfilm apparently, is now in Minnesota and elsewhere in the States. And that's what is used to write the history of Ethiopia. Some artifacts, some of these wonderful things that the church possessed, we used to do that microfilm. So that's my first job.
Yeah.
And USAID gave some money to the professor to do this work. And the second thing, which was then, I just knew that I can be of help to my parents. And then I joined UNDP.
Oh, okay.
In 1979, at an age which is not supposed to be the age to work,
You were
they
much
had
younger.
to write an affidavit. They signed, and that
Yeah.
because they knew also the problem and the, really where I was, the situation wasn't good. And then I left to New York, and when I went to New York, I just continued my studies. I didn't sit down and say, okay, fine, let's know everything. No, I worked 2 places. I was working with the UN, full time, as an assistant, as a secretary, because that was the only job that they could guarantee for me. But
Okay.
I was working also as also researcher for my professor, Professor Todaro, and I was working also at night so that I could help my family. I
Yeah.
could go to a prestigious school like New York University
Yeah.
and I don't want to go to any school. I just said no way. I have to go to the right school so that when I graduate, I'll get a job and I'll be,
Yes.
So I did that. So it was a struggle. I mean, I had like 2-3 hours of sleep. I brought all my brothers, as refugees and my sisters and whatever to come to the States so that they can have better future.
Okay, so
And
you helped them also
Yes,
get
yes.
to the
I-
States to
oh yes,
get
yeah.
better
I
education.
brought my younger brother and my younger sister, got them, school admission. I
Yeah.
paid for their schools. They came.
Wow.
My other
Even though
brothers.
you were still very young.
Yes, my other brothers, went through the refugee route,
Yeah.
and they came. I assured them, and then that was why I stayed in New York, because I could do all that, given the fact that I had a G4 visa from the UN,
Yeah.
and I complemented my salary doing other part-time jobs and studying, and it was difficult, but I think it was something that made me to be resilient, to be perseverant,
Yeah.
to understand that, hard work pays off,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And seeing my brothers and sisters where they are today, makes me the happiest person on
Wow.
earth,
Wow.
So that is who I am.
During those times of struggle, what's the biggest lesson life taught you? Especially when you had to literally leave home, go to stay in the States, try to find your feet, and also help your younger siblings come through the refugee route and all of that. They were tough times, but what lessons did they teach you?
Well, first of all, I think, and that's what you have to have faith.
Faith.
Faith is very important, and confidence in yourself is very, very important.
Okay.
And in everything that I do, whenever there are challenges, even today, I mean, we have always daily challenges, right? I always try to see, so how do we solve this problem? So I'm much more looking at solutions and saying, okay, there must be something,
Yeah.
So I look at that, opportunities, and then try to really grasp that opportunity, seize it,
Okay.
and materialize it.
Yeah.
And it offsets the challenge. It's just incredible, because in life, there is always the positive and negative.
Yeah.
You cannot tell me that everything is dark. There is some light somewhere. You have to follow that light, right? So it's very important that I sort of developed that, I think it's just a necessity, out of necessity,
Yeah.
maybe. Maybe it's nature, I don't know. I always see the brightest aspect of life, and I go for it.
You're more optimistic.
Yeah, I'm a lot more optimistic. And really, when I want something, I have to get it.
Okay.
It doesn't matter how.
Go-getter.
Yeah, I'm a go-getter also, yeah.
These are very wonderful values that you're sharing with us. Let's go through your journey to coming back to the continent. You worked in the UN system for a very long time, and probably that was on the global scale. But you're still passionate about the development of Africa.
Yeah, because even when I was in the UN, my focus was on Africa. If you look at my journey, I worked in the Comoros, I worked in Benin twice, I worked in Kenya twice, I worked even here. I was here.
You worked in
Yeah,
Ghana?
I was here briefly, but I was here.
Okay.
I was in Nigeria.
What did you do in Ghana?
When I was in Ghana, my focus was on the private sector.
In the private sector.
So yeah, mostly on the private sector, SMEs development, a little bit supported the private sector foundation,
Okay.
and with your minister, Alan Kermaton.
Oh,
we
Kermaton,
were on
yes,
that.
yes.
Yeah, he is just.
Alan.
Oh yeah, he's an icon.
Yeah.
So I was working also with him on private sector.
He's now the leader of the movement for change, and
know.
hopefully, if all goes well for him, he might be president someday.
Wish him good luck, but he's been really great person.
Yeah.
I mean, great person. You know, he was on Enterprise Africa, if you remember. So, you know, and we worked so tightly together and have got high regards for him. So, you know, I was there, but I was a private sector policy advisor, so I covered the whole entire continent as a private sector policy advisor on Africa. And therefore, you know, my whole attention was to Africa. I believe that Africa is going to be, you know, the economic power, the global economic power, and Africa is not going to be defined by crisis, and Africa needs to be defined by prosperity, you know, because in any case, we are always overlooking, you know, all what we have, and we look at the negative thing, right? No, it's not crisis all over. Africa has been leading. Africa's growth has been really up, you know, better than the rest of the world when you look at it as a continent. And we need to capitalize on that. And we need to give hope to our children. And, you know, the most important thing is to energize Africa. That's why when I came to this work, 2 flagship programs I was interested in, and I'm still interested in, and I want you to really talk to everybody so that we get we mobilize and galvanize. One is Energize Africa.
Oh, the one about youth development.
The youth development, yeah.
Yes.
You know, I mean, look at what's happening in Kenya, all right? What the power of youth can do.
Yeah.
And I saw it in Kenya during the election violence. The power of youth, the physical power of youth. They had to uproot the railway, you know. That's what we need to rechannel and put it to, you know, effective use.
Right.
Africa's youth constitutes 60% of the population. We cannot ignore that. Africa is the present. Africa is the hope in the future. You know, the youth.
Yes.
You know, and you know, for Africa to be, you know, the leading power, the current leading power, and to be the power, you know, to be the economic power, global powerhouse in the future, who drives that? The youth and technology.
Yes.
And look what technology has done today. You look at Kenya, the leaderless, and I would say leaderful, because each one of them came. How we used to waste money in bringing consensus, in bringing that collective action, in consultation. They did it.
Yeah.
They consulted. It's a consultative process among themselves. They are leaderful and leaderless, you know, at the same time. And they have come out with demands that are well articulated, which will take us, I don't know how many consultants to draft.
Yeah. Yeah.
Together they did it, and that collective effort is really changing the way we govern, our mode of government and mode of governance to something else. And we need to watch that. And therefore the Energize Africa is really geared to really making sure that the energies of the youth is given, you know, the space to transform Africa.
Yes. Yes. Good stuff.
And there are 3 aspects of it. The first one is public service. I believe, and this is my conviction, that we are too old to be able to have policies defined for the young ones. Because we carry the old way of doing, the old way of mentality, whatever. We have to give that space to the young ones to be able to craft their policies, to craft their legal regulatory frameworks that would help them to thrive, right? So injecting the young ones in the public service is one of the biggest programs that we have, component 1. But what does that mean? In Africa right now, the wage bill is constricted because, you know, it takes a lot of the resources. So the national budget cannot afford to accommodate new recruitees unless people retire, right? So what we do is create a program, a special program, where you bring these young ones, inject them in the public sector, and put them in positions where they could be doing something. Someone told me, why don't you put volunteers? Why don't you create a volunteer program? And I said, that is in the past. Why would a young one like you would like to go as a volunteer? Why should you volunteer? I mean, we should volunteer. We are old, you know, we can do. The old ones can volunteer. The young ones should never volunteer. They should go and work. They have the right to be experts. They have the right to be officials, authorities. So this is what the first part of the program is. The second part is innovation. African child under a tree with a mobile phone creates apps to resolve, you know, the challenges around him or around her. And we have got this homegrown solutions program, and it has revealed to us in health, in agriculture, that these African young children are coming out with solutions.
Yeah.
Can you imagine if we give them the space to express their creativity, what it could do?
Yeah.
Right now, what happens is the African intellectual capacity is being exported, and it comes in different form, in finished form, you know, for us to consume. So this is one of the things, you know, we're mapping out all the innovation hubs, you know, having standards set for them, having, you know, really quality assurance so that they can be really facilitating that. The third one is what the startups.
The startups, okay.
The MSME support for that.
Yeah.
Within the value chains that we know, there are broad pillars for the AFC FTA to thrive and to be actualized. So within that, building the value chain and putting these young ones in the value chain.
Okay.
And also skills, associated skills, you know, associated, you know, institutional capacity for the ecosystem to be supportive. And these are the fertilized, the Bureau of Standards, and all this to be all supporting the young ones to be,
Her Excellency, Mrs. Bekele-Thomas, here on Personality Profile on Joy 99.7 FM, and she is the CEO of the Africa Union Development Agency, NEPAD, and we're having a very enthralling conversation. I'm totally enjoying this. What kind of leader are you, Mrs. Bekele-Thomas?
I really do not know. I love people, so I think I'm a servant leader.
Oh.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I understand that, you know, I'm there for purpose. I understand that, you know, I'm there to serve, you know. So, you know, I should say I'm a servant leader.
What kind of young people do you like to work with? Or what kind of values do you want to see in the people that you work with?
I like hardworking, because I led my life working hard. I'm a self-made person.
Okay.
So I like people that really do not depend on others, that are really self-reliant and, you know, they're ready to self-actualize, you know, hardworking people. And I surround myself with young girls, you know, ladies now, I should say. They range from 27 to 30, all of them in my office.
Okay.
You know, I bring them, I just see, you know, people are surprised. What I see is I see talent and I just grab them. And you know, initially, even my office thought, you know, they were like people that I knew. Now they are realizing that, you know, I just get them from anywhere where opportunities are. I look at somebody that really has what it takes, so I say, okay, fine. You know, like for example, this colleague of mine, Zamzam, is a Harvard graduate.
Okay.
In law, and you know, she's brilliant. I've got another one, Basi, who has got 2 masters. I have another one who has got 2 masters in communications, who I'm trying to bring.
Okay.
So I like, you know, these young ones that have energies, that really want to work, you know. And there are many of them. You know, so, you know, bringing those around me so that they also learn, you know, from watching me, you know.
Yes. When you mentioned young ladies, I'm wondering where we the young men fall in your line of.
I have a young man who is my chief of staff, to be honest with you.
Okay.
A South African young man who is just amazing.
Okay. I
And
was getting worried for
yeah,
myself.
no. I also look at, the young men.
The young men. So, but being a
and
woman,
literally, we should be. Nowadays, yes, we need to give space to young women,
Yeah.
and there are many of them.
Yeah.
They're really outnumbering the young men, but we have to be giving space to all young
Yeah.
people.
I know you're very passionate about women empowerment, but tell me, what role did being a woman aid or probably be a challenge as well in your rise to the top?
It's getting better, I should say, but my time was a big struggle. Being a woman is being insignificant in a way, and you have to struggle again, and you have to make your voice heard. And you've heard, oh, this lady is aggressive. Yeah, because who made her to be aggressive is the environment, because you force yourself. You have to be assertive.
Yeah.
You have to be, to mark your presence. And I remember when I was young, I used to speak, because in Ethiopia, when you're a woman, you cannot speak loud. You have to be soft, right? And I learned how to speak loud. And I remember going and talking to my mother, and she says, why are you screaming? So I'm not screaming, I'm making myself heard.
Yeah.
And I realized that, it was like an acquired thing.
Yeah.
And, to capture the environment, the style environment. So yes, you have to struggle. There was, of course, you are also, in my days, women are seen as objects. We are struggling, and that struggle is yielding results now. And still, there are so many impediments. The way you see a lady is, oh, she's so beautiful, oh, she's well dressed, oh, you see, it's not, you don't say the same thing to a man, because there is that kind of, image of what a woman should be still there, right?
Right.
So we're fighting that, and the ladies are really thriving.
Yeah.
You go to a school, majority
Yeah.
are
That's true.
ladies. They are really being there,
Yeah.
being seen, and taking
Yeah.
space, and that is wonderful.
Yeah.
That is really wonderful. So the struggle has been tough. The struggle has been difficult. From home to outside to wherever you go, you have to be aware of the fact that there is that normal struggle you have to do.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I call it the basic obstacles.
Right.
Because they are just normal. It's a universal thing
Yeah.
to all women. So I call them basic obstacles. And then there are the other hurdles. You have to work double
Yeah.
what your, a male colleague would do to be seen, to be appreciated. You are in meetings, you raise your hand, no one notices you, and if they notice you and you say something sensible, it's not recognized. But when a man says the same thing with a hoarse voice, then that is something. So, all these were things that we had to really go to overcome. I remember going with a JPO, junior professional officer, who was working under me, to a minister, and therefore he just assumed that he was the assistant treasurer. So he says, oh, yes, sir, please come, sit down, and whatever. Thought I was a secretary to him. I was his assistant.
Wow.
And had to correct him. But, it just came natural for everybody that a woman would not be a boss
Yeah.
and has a man following her. But now it's normal, right? You see it everywhere, yeah? So things are improving, but we still need to work
Okay.
more.
What's the biggest lesson life has taught you?
To my to the young generation, what I say is that, more and more I see that the entitlement mind, which we should get rid of.
Okay.
Hopelessness, despondence, we should really get rid of. And we have to inculcate that self-confidence, self-actualization, being resilient, understanding the fact that this world is a checkered world. You know, there is nothing smooth, right? So you need to be able to have that stamina, the perseverance, the resilience to withstand all these obstacles, to be where you want, and focus your eyes on your objective, your goal in life. And lastly is more and more I see the societal values depleting. That is what you have. And I tell each and every child, believe in your values, in your principles, be ethical, be truthful, because these are really the tenets of success.
Okay.
These are fundamental. So, you know, this is what I would tell my young children.
Very wonderful values.
Yeah.
I'm so grateful you shared. What's your greatest fear?
My greatest fear?
Well, apart from spiders.
Apart from, actually I hate spiders is okay, but rats, I don't like that. But anyway, my fear is, you know, in Africa, I think our leaders, and we as leaders, when I say our leaders, it's not just the presidents and heads of state, but leaders at all levels should be aware of the evolution in this world, in all aspects. What technology has brought to this world is incredible. We can either take advantage of it or allow it to destroy us. So, you know, but, you know, it's very important that the AI technology and whatever that you see, just, you know, you embrace it and promote it so that it is useful to us in the transformation process. I am keeping a close eye on what is evolving in Kenya, for example, on leaderless, leaderful, technology-driven, youthful, you know, movements. And what that would bring, and how we can use that to change the social order, the political order, and the economic order in the continent, but also in the world. How can we learn from that? And you know, I think, you know, sometimes when something is off, then we tend to say, oh, you know, we just fence ourselves from that, rather than embracing it and looking at what that could lead in terms of the transformation process. So I think, you know, we need to keep an eye, you know, on technology, make technology to work for us.
Awesome.
And use the youthful energies to transform ourselves, because in any case, the future that we build is for them.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, absolutely.
So yeah.
Look, I'm so grateful. This has been a very inspiring conversation.
Thank you
and
so much.
The youth of Africa are grateful to you for your exemplary leadership and for all the nuggets that you've shared with us today.
Thank you so much.
I've totally enjoyed spending time with you.
Thank you so much.
And I'm sure my wonderful viewer and listener would also say same.